Good morning, beautiful people. Hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Today, I want to talk about things that absolutely do not matter for muscle growth. First of all, right, this is going to be controversial. Don't care. I see too many people majoring in the minors and arguing about things that really are not going to move the needle. The big rocks in muscle building, right? People are fucking arguing about pebbles, missing the boulder in front of them. The big rocks, the boulders in building muscle is picking up heavy shit and putting it back down until you can't anymore. That's the biggest rock. The second biggest rock is protein. We need to be, you motherfucker, dude, cut you off, you fuck stain. God, you're a cock. Eat my dick. My God. Holy shit. The big rocks in building muscle are picking up heavy shit and putting it back down so you can't anymore. Eating an adequate amount of protein. This is going to be 0.8 grams per pound minimum, and getting good sleep and recovery and managing stress. Those are the boulders. Everything else is minutia, to be 100% honest. Hypertrophy is stupidly forgiving. It is very easy to grow muscle. You can do a lot of dumb shit and grow muscle, right? There's a reason why you see big ass guys and they're doing unoptimal training, but they're still jacked. It's because they're picking up heavy shit until they can't anymore. They're eating protein, they're managing stress, and they're probably getting a decent amount of sleep. There you go. So what are some things that really don't matter? Well, the first one is going to be nutrient timing. And this one's going to ruffle some feathers, of course, but nutrient timing really does not have a large effect. We have, especially protein timing, we have seen, first of all, the anabolic window doesn't exist. Let's get that out of the way. The whole that you need to eat protein right after you finish a workout. The first reason that this doesn't exist is because your digestion is significantly slowed for at minimum 30 minutes after heavy resistance training. So even if you did slam a protein shake directly after your workout, you're not fucking doing anything with it. And it's the same thing with the post-workout carbs trend right now that everyone's talking about. Oh, you increase GLUT4 transmitter and we're going to replenish the glycogen in your fibers because fiber glycogen is completely deplenished. And yeah, it is. But guess what? You've got a whole nother, you should be resting. You're not going to go to the gym for probably another 24 hours. And by then it's going to be replenished. Obviously, yeah, you need to eat carbs within that window, but it doesn't have to be right after. You don't need to take advantage of the increased GLUT4 activity and your increased insulin sensitivity. And we have studies measuring this, and they didn't find a difference. One, in muscle protein synthesis, so the ability to build muscle, and two, in the actual outcome of just hypertrophy. We have not seen it. So post-workout timing of nutrients doesn't matter, and timing of protein, even throughout the day, doesn't really seem to matter. We have a couple studies showing that it does, and a couple studies showing that it doesn't, but even the studies that we have showing that it does are very, very, very small differences. So yeah, if you're looking to truly maximize, every time that you spike muscle protein synthesis from feeding, it seems to be elevated for about 4 hours. So ideally, we're spacing out protein every 4 hours. But this is like, if you're competing for the Olympia, this is stuff that you should be looking into. If you're just a regular guy trying to get jacked, you could probably just spread out your you could ideally, you're not eating one meal a day, but we even have studies looking at time restricted eating where they eat within 8 to 16, where they eat 8 hour time windows, so 8 hours of eating and then 16 hours of fasting versus just regular ad libitum intake and spaced out intake. And they don't find differences in hypertrophy. So again, small rocks, pebbles. The thing that my mentor, Alan Aragon, always says is total protein intake bakes the cake. Timing is just the icing. So again, pebbles. And then it's the same thing with carbs. Carb timing does not matter except for pre-workout. And again, it's still probably pebbles because yes, we've seen increases in things like total volume load and 1 rep max and decreases in perception of effort from having pre-workout and intra-workout carbs. But this is the thing of where mechanisms and outcomes don't always line up, right? And I know that, of course, we're always looking in this whole science-based niche, everyone's looking to always maximize. So yeah, ideally, the theory is that this tiny increase that we see over 12 weeks is going to add up and become a big increase over the years. But I will remind you about the principle of striated muscle, which basically says each fiber has a size that it can't get bigger than. It can only get so big before it essentially doesn't work. The mechanisms within the fiber, I'm not going to get into the super physiology of it, but essentially the muscle can't function because it gets too big. So we're going to end up at the same point. It's just how long it takes you to get there. And that is where I challenge the people who say that we just should rely on these mechanisms and these tiny little differences in outcomes, that it'll get us exponentially more gains. Maybe, but is it really worth the stress that you're putting on to do it? I don't think so. So nutrient timing is one of the biggest things that people stress about that really does not matter. And obviously I'm not saying to do one meal a day, right? I still tell my clients, and I still personally eat protein about every 4 hours. But this is also just from a satiety standpoint as well, and from a gut health standpoint, because your gut actually has a circadian, not a circadian, but your gut has a rhythm that's sort of like your circadian rhythm, and it seems to line up. So your gut likes you to eat at the similar times throughout the day, plus eating 4 meals every 4 hours, roughly. It just kind of works out, because we want to be spreading out our protein feedings ideally. It doesn't seem like, again, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, because we've got the study where they fed people 100 grams of protein and they really didn't waste any of it. Everyone always thought you would just piss out all of the extra protein, but that doesn't appear to be the case. Because literally the conclusion that they came to from that paper was that there is no upper limit of basically protein and digestion, that you can just kind of smack as much as you want. Because most people aren't eating more than 100 grams in a sitting. And if you are, why? Anyways, that's the other. So I'm not saying to do 1 meal a day. I'm just saying don't stress about it if you do 2 or 3. I think ideally, optimally, we're going to be doing 4 meals a day. We're going to spread them out every 4 hours. But again, pebbles over boulders. And the other thing is, so that's in regards to nutrition. And then, fat intake is another one that really doesn't matter. People always talk about the impact of fat intake on your hormone health and on your brain. And I really, really doubt that, because first of all, we've seen that women don't even really seem to be negatively affected from super low fat intakes. And then we've also seen that, men, it might tank your testosterone a little bit, but as long as we're still within the normal ranges, we're probably good. And so I think most people can get away with being in that 50 to 70 grams of fat range, regardless of body weight. Again, that's my opinion. And so fat intake, I think, is severely overrated. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're going to have the test of an 11-year-old girl if you don't eat 90 grams of fat per day. No. And let's see. Obviously, I think especially if you're supplementing with omegas. If you're not eating fatty fish and you're not supplementing with omega-3s, then you probably are going to see some negative side effects. Holy shit, gym brain. But if you are supplementing with omega-3s or eating fatty fish a couple times a week, I think you're good. Another thing that doesn't matter, and this one is going to make people angry, your split. Your split doesn't matter. Again, pebbles. Because we look at it and there's guys, this is where I'm going to get into the anecdotes, right? We see jacked motherfuckers who do bro splits, who train with 1 times frequency. Because everyone likes to act like the difference in hypertrophy between 1 and 3 times frequency is just massive. It's just massive, but it's really not. There's one study, the one maintenance study, where they had the one group did the 9 sets in 1 day, and then the other one split them up across 3, and the one group only maintained and the other group grew. And so everyone extrapolates that out to basically say that frequency is the main driver, that it's a huge rock. But if frequency really was that important, then why is the benefit? First of all, we have studies comparing 1 times frequency to 3 times frequency where they didn't find any difference. Where when you equate volume, it doesn't seem like, and even in the meta-analyses, we've seen that frequency in the older one, the Brad Schoenfeld one, that one showed that frequency didn't have an effect. And then yes, in the newer one, it did show that 2 times was significantly better than 1, but again, not by much. And so we know, frequency does have an effect, but it's not huge. So yes, I still advocate, again, I'm not saying that these things don't matter at all. I'm just saying they're not the biggest things to focus on. And especially people will ask like, oh my God, do I need to do full body every other day? Can I do it 3 times a week? Can I do anterior, posterior 6 times a week? Can I just fucking pick one that you like? See, we talk about motivation. Motivation's a huge factor. If we're going to use the psychobiological model of fatigue that basically says that our brain and our perception of effort is what determines when we fail a set, and that's the prevailing model right now is the psychobiological one, or you can use the governor theory. They kind of tie into each other. Both of them basically just say that it's about perception of effort. When we look at that, it's like, okay, where was I even going with that? Oh yeah, motivation is clearly a huge factor. And it's the same thing with music. We have studies that show that music boosts exercise performance. So clearly motivation is a huge thing. So if you think full body every other day is the best split of all time, but it is on paper, but you just hate doing full body, but you do push-pull legs and you show up and you're just ripping, ready to go, love it, then maybe that's a better split for you. Again, I think this is one of the things that people get caught up on, is they want optimal to be a blanket statement. They want it to be a prescription for everyone. They want things to be black and white, when in reality, resistance training, coaching, physique development, this is all a gray area. And even with frequency, right? I've talked about this with other coaches, is that some muscle groups appear to benefit from different frequencies on different people. Some people don't recover well from 3 times frequency, even when you do crank the volume down and crank the intensity down. So for example, myself, my chest has always I've always grown more doing 2 times frequency. Even when I was doing 3 times frequency for my chest and I was leaving reps in reserve and I was basically just doing 2 sets every other day. And at 1 rep in reserve on both, 1 to 2 on the first, 1 on the second. I was not even going to failure and I was not recovering well. And now I do 3 sets and I do it 2.5 times a week. And I'm going from 1 to 0 reps in reserve, and I'm growing way more than I ever have. And so this is just the playing around with variables. But yeah, your split is totally overrated. And then another thing that goes into this is exercise order. Everyone likes, again, these little factors. I don't think everyone realizes how small of an impact we're really talking about these things having. Because yes, the things that you hit first in the workout are going to be prioritized mechanistically. But when we look at the data and they actually test this out, it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to have a large effect. And of course, the thing that everyone always says with studies is like, oh, well, this is only 12 weeks or this is only 8 weeks. Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, if it's only 8 weeks, all right, that's short, right? 2 months. But if we're talking 12 weeks, 3 months, 3 months is a decent amount of time. I don't know about you, but yeah, exercise order is another one that doesn't seem to matter too much, especially after your first couple exercises, man. And even Keenan, who's a very mechanistic guy, is an advocate for just lining up your session based on how your gym is laid out after your first couple of exercises, because of how little the exercise order seems to matter. So what have we talked about that doesn't matter as much as everyone thinks? Nutrient timing, fat intake, frequency, exercise order, your splits. What else doesn't matter? What do people really think matters? Oh, I know. Exercise selection. My God, this is probably the biggest one. Exercise selection. People will talk about, is bench better? Is it better to do a flat press, or is it better to do a pec deck? Is it better to do a recline curl or an incline curl? Is it better to do a tricep push down or an overhead push down? And it's like there are differences between these, but it's so minute. It's so minute. People have been shitting on barbell bench press since science-based lifting became a thing. Oh my God, like 5 years ago at this point. And guess what? There's still guys that have built massive chests doing bench press, because at the end of the day, you're still training horizontal adduction. And when we're talking about this is again, just getting back to that same principle of we're going to get to the same point. It's just about how fast we get there. And because like, you really can't with a straight face tell me that Ronnie Coleman would have been bigger if he would have trained with an elbow supported pec deck instead of benching. I really don't think so. I don't think that his muscles had any more growth to do. And again, yeah, you can talk about the difference that gear makes, but really, man, exercise selection is not, as long as you're training the joint action, those muscles are going to grow, period. That is just how this works. And so again, I feel like this video people are going to think I'm anti-optimal. No, I'm just trying to make you realize that we're really talking about pebbles versus boulders. And it's fine. I love looking at the pebbles, but you have to understand that they are pebbles, that they're not boulders, because I think this stuff is just cool and interesting of like, oh, maybe this is just a little bit better. But then the thing I always say is look at the units, right? When they're measuring hypertrophy, they're talking about differences in millimeters. You're not going to notice if your bicep is a millimeter bigger than it was. You're just not. And at the end of the day, as long as you're growing, you're going to be happy. So really try not to get so caught up in all of this minutia that you get analysis paralysis. Just know the big boulders. Pick up heavy shit, put it back down until you can't anymore. Eat some protein, manage your stress, get good sleep. There you go. It's really that simple. The problem is that it's time consuming. And that's what people don't want to accept. That's why everyone's always looking for the most optimal way to do everything, because they can't accept how slow the process of hypertrophy, of growing muscle really is. It's grams per day. It's millimeters. It's not very noticeable. So that's why everyone's so caught up in how to find the best way to do this, the best way to do that, the fastest way to grow muscle. But really, you're not going to be growing it that much faster, right? Fall in love with the process. The guy who loves to walk is going to walk 1,000,000 miles farther than the guy who just wants to get somewhere. That's the end of my rant for today. I hope you learned something. Go get jacked. I love y'all. Peace.